Bill 1790, and we will start with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair and members of the committee. Peter Clodfelter, staff of the committee. House Bill 1790 relates to expanding and improving the social equity in cannabis program. The bill would modify the cannabis social equity program in several ways, including extending the expiration of the program. Currently, the program is running through 2029. This bill would extend it to 2032. The bill would also add cannabis producer and processor licenses to the program. So it would authorize reissuing up to 100 producer licenses and up to 100 processor licenses that have been canceled or forfeited. Those could be reissued through the current social equity program. The current program is limited to reissuing cannabis retail licenses, and there's currently a pool of about 44 retail licenses that have been canceled or, and there's subject to issuance through that program. So this expands it to producer processor licenses. It also adds authority to issue additional cannabis retail licenses through the program beyond the ones that are in the current pool. So it would say that beginning in January of 2024, there could be up to 52 additional retail licenses issued in the program. And then starting currently, as of January of 2023, the LCB, with approval of the legislature through the passage of another bill, could increase the retail licenses in the social equity program every 3 years based on census data and OFM population estimates. So there's sort of two ways that retail licenses would be added to the program by the bill. It would also require a third-party contractor to score the social equity applicants, and this would align with the 2022 supplemental operating budget, where the legislature directed LCB to do this and provided some funding. The bill would also amend several definitions in the social equity program, including for social equity applicant, disproportionately impacted area, and social equity plan. Regarding where the licenses could be issued in the program, it would allow them to be issued in any city, town, or county that allows the cannabis retailer processing business activities at that location. So the current program is limiting the reissued retail licenses to the county they were originally issued in. This would say that any licenses issued in the program could be statewide if it's authorized at that proposed location. The bill also, on license fees, it has two parts. It encourages all cannabis licensees, including those that are not in the social equity program, to submit a social equity plan. And for those that do so, it provides a one-time reimbursement for the annual cost of their cannabis license. And the current license fee is $1,381 per year. And the bill last, it does waive annual license fees for licenses that are issued to social equity applicants through the program. So cannabis producer, processor, retailer licenses, those fees would be waived for the social equity program through December 31st of 2029. That concludes the staff presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do the members have any questions of staff? Ranking Member Chambers.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Peter, I think you said that licenses could be issued every 3 years depending on population change, or
yeah, correct.
But do we get census data every 3 years?
It would direct to use the most recent census data available. So there would be the opportunity to open up additional retail licenses every 3 years, and then it would use, I think, whatever was the most recent census data at that time to do so, along with OFM population estimates.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of our staff? Well, we have the prime sponsor here, Representative Entenmann. Tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chairs, Ranking Member, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Deborah Entenmann, legislator from the 47th Legislative District. Today, I bring before you a bill that I hope will lead us to a remedy from past wrongs called the war on drugs. Cannabis social equity is a tool in order to undo unfair practices that were put in place by our government. You have heard from staff the technical aspects of what cannabis social equity will do. But what I am going to do today is to try to bring to you what are the social aspects of this social equity program. In the past, we have had targeted police practices to end drug use in certain communities. The targeted police practices had a disproportionate impact on Black and brown communities. We know that everyone, many large communities use some sort of recreational drugs. I'm not making that up, that's factual. We also know that as we have legalized the use of cannabis, we have few to no Black or brown retail cannabis licenses that have been issued. When we had medical cannabis in our communities, we had a fairly fair number, adequate number of distributors and licensures who were Black and brown people. But as we've moved to the retail license programs, they were left out. There are many reasons for that. Some people will talk to you about that as we hear further testimony. I cannot list all of the reasons. I can just tell you about the outcome. The outcome is Black and brown people were not able to have cannabis licenses. Very few women have cannabis licenses. This is unfair, and what this bill hopes to do is to have a remedy that is fair. No, everyone is not happy with this bill. I want to make sure we say that. But what we hope to do is to have a remedy for past wrongs, and as we move forward, have a fairer distribution of resources and support in retail cannabis licenses, which may lead to more women and people of color having retail licenses, building generational wealth, and they will be able to take care of their families and pass that wealth on to the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members have questions of our prime sponsor? Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair, Rep. Entenmann. The LCB and the state have currently social equity licenses set aside, and frankly, they're having trouble awarding those fast enough. How will this additional program be implemented in an effective way?
Well, we believe that why they have not been issued is because of some unfair practices that have gone on and been admitted to in the Liquor and Cannabis Board. That is why we have a social equity task force, because for 10 years, they did not allow certain people to have the licenses, even though there is evidence that they were qualified to do so. So now we are putting some guide rails on the Liquor and Cannabis Board, and we are trying to hold people accountable to simply make the process fair for those who would like to compete.
Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Entenmann, for your testimony. Would you say it's true that when people of color, especially Black African Americans, finally get access and pathways to something that we were always shut out of, that we are expected to hurry up overnight and get on board and be able to participate at a level that other communities have had ample time, years, to perfect, to arrive at an outcome?
I would agree with that statement, Representative Morgan, and make another statement. Access to capital for any retail enterprise is key to success. So there has been lack of access to capital because we still see cannabis as a Schedule I drug, and so those people who were are able to receive loans or have generational wealth that they can use to invest in these businesses have had a easier time in starting retail cannabis business.
Co-Chair Kloba.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to access to capital, I know that's, of course, any new business that has this kind of startup cost is going to need that. I know that, traditionally banks and other lending institutions have had some inequitable kinds of policies as they were handing out money. And of course, it's complicated in this business because there are many federal institutions who are not willing to engage in this business, but there is a lot of venture capital. And so do you think it would be helpful if there was removal of the in-state requirement for folks who invest in these types of business? Would that be helpful or harmful to remove that so that they have access to other types of capital?
I personally believe that it would be harmful. We don't need anyone from outside of this state coming in to invest in social equity licenses when we have people here who are ready and willing to invest in social equity licenses. And it's not just past discriminatory practices. I think we need to be clear that they were intentionally, racially discriminatory practices. We have to be honest about that if we are going to move forward.
Okay, so you're saying that there's plenty of access to capital right now, so that's not a barrier?
No, I did not say that there is plenty access to capital right now. I want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I'm confused.
I'm saying we don't need people from out of the state to come in to invest. I think that there are people here who are willing to invest.
Okay, thank you.
Given the opportunity.
Thank you, Representative Robertson, and then Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm somewhat new to the committee, third year. So my understanding is, 10 years ago when they did this, it was a lottery that did the licenses. And so you just made a really profound statement that the Liquor Control Board, outside of the lottery, which is by chance, of course, that there were practices at the LCB that were targeted to minority communities and eliminating them from the process. So if you could share with me exactly what those are and how
I will tell you what the outcomes are. The outcomes were...
Well, no. My question is what were those practices and how does this legislation change that?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Excuse me for interrupting. I'm passionate about this particular issue. What happened in the LCB is we had people who were in medical cannabis, and they were following all of the rules, doing whatever they were supposed to do. We came in strong with enforcement, the Liquor and Cannabis Board did, and not as strong with education. So educating folks on what they were to do and what they were not to do. But one of the key things that happened, and there is evidence of this, is that folks who had medical licenses were sent a notice that said, you don't need to rush to apply for a retail license. And many of them made the assumption that that meant that they were going to be grandfathered in because they were already in the business and they were doing well and they were successful. Instead, that is not what happened. When the cannabis licenses that were available were quickly picked up, and the folks who were in the medical business were left out of the game. And most of the folks who were in the medical business were people of color.
Thank you. Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Entenmann, would you not agree that given a couple facts, the LCB is considered a limited law enforcement entity, that it's possible that the organizational culture at LCB, given its roots, its background, is one rooted in a law enforcement culture. And as such, that law enforcement culture, as you kind of articulated, perpetuates an idea that we must enforce first versus educate help folks through the process. And that because of that enforcement culture, perhaps the way that we have even thought about rolling out cannabis, independent of the equity piece, over the last decade has operated from an enforcement prevention culture rather than an access equity culture.
I would agree with that statement, Representative Reeves.
Representative Chambers.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Thank you for your bill presentation, Representative Entman. There's something in the bill that says the social equity applicants will submit a plan that indicates how they'll promote the social equity goals in the community. I'm wondering if the goals are defined somewhere. Is it a metric that can be measured, and how you know that the goal has been met?
So it's my understanding that, yes, the social equity goals are set out. Staff may be able to specifically tell you exactly where you can find it, or someone from the LCB who will be testifying later. But yes, there are defined goals.
Are there any further questions of our prime sponsor? Seeing none, we thank you. Representative Entman.
Thank you very much, members of the committee.
And now we will proceed to our testifiers. Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to go ahead and start with Albert Sardinius, Paula Sardinius. They appear to be on a panel together. And then if we could also have Shalay Anderson.
Good morning, Co-Chairs Wiley, Co-Chair Klova, Vice Chair Stearns, Ranking Member Chambers. My name is Paula Fillmore Sardinus, and I'm here this morning representing the Washington Build Back Black Alliance, which represents nearly 300,000 Washingtonians in strong support of this bill. As background, I'd like to share with you that I'm the former co-chair of the Social Equity Task Force. In 2022, I was named a national recipient of the Community Award for Equity, and this year, 2023, I'll be a delegate to the United Nations speaking on issues of racial equity, innovation, and social justice. You're going to hear a lot about the what. I want to talk to you about the why. Why are we here today? Because it's been 10 years since Washington took the steps to legalize adult cannabis use. And during the construct of those policies, this body has discussed public safety, we've discussed prevention and revenue projections, but absent often is the conversations about equity and making whole the disproportionately impacted community whose lives and neighborhoods were decimated by the war on drugs. This bill is an economic development tool that will lift communities out of poverty, and we know when the Black community does well, all the other communities do better. What do we mean when we say that? I've looked at this policy in 7 states. Revenues generated by social equity stores take care of issues like food insecurity, affordable housing. They donate to your Boys and Girls Clubs and your YMCA that house those children whose parents are currently incarcerated due to the unfair sentencing disparities between powdered cocaine and marijuana. Those who've had the opportunity in other states to have these stores have reinvested in building their community. They've fought anti-displacement and gentrification. We believe that HB 1790 seeks to build upon the incredible work done by Representative Eric Pettigrew, the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board, and propels us forward in the right direction. So in closing, I'd like to quote my favorite president, Abraham Lincoln. "Those who would deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves, and under a just God, they cannot retain it." We cannot retain policies that are not equitable, that are not fair, and that are not just. With that, we ask you for your favorable support on HB 1790. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chairs Kloba and Wiley, Ranking Member Chambers, and members of the committee. For the record, Albert Sardinus with the Washington Build Back Black Alliance, testifying pro on House Bill 1790. I want to first thank Representative Entman for bringing this good bill forward, and the LCB as well for its support. Nationwide, Black people are almost 4 times more likely than white people to be arrested in connection with marijuana-related crimes, despite similar use rates among both races. And while many states have taken steps to decriminalize or legalize cannabis, there remains a significant racial disparity in arrests related to marijuana possession or sale. While we applaud the current work of the social equity program, we know that 44 of 556 licenses does not achieve equity. With the passage of House Bill 1790, we take another incremental step towards ensuring Washington's legal adult cannabis market reflects not only our values, but the communities that we serve. Dollars are already allocated for business, technical assistance, and mentors to ensure these new applicants have the best and more viable chance for success, and funding will be allocated for prevention to protect youth and law enforcement to ensure public safety. Like the previous iterations, the agency and the sponsors have heard from thousands of CBOs, grassroots advocates, and industry professionals, all championing the cause of cannabis social equity. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you this morning, and we ask for your favorable vote on House Bill 1790.
Are there any questions of this panel? Representative Chambers.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Do you have any, so some of the underlying cannabis regulation spells out where the funds go and which buckets they're put in, and the bulk of it ultimately going to the state general fund. Do you have any objection to a greater percentage of that revenue going to the local jurisdictions as a way to incentivize where new licensees could open? Because what we've seen through the task force is that some cities have had tremendous population growth and have indicated that they would like to raise that cap on the number of licensees that they have.
I think that is a wonderful idea, and I believe that Senator Linda Wilson brought that forward in the Senate side. If we want to really have equity, we have to also look at our rural communities, not just our urban. And I think when you add those dollars and increase that incentive where you cite as these licenses, I think it is, you know, from the manufacturing side, since we're asking for 100 producer processor licenses, it could help some of those communities today that have a prohibition because they don't receive those cannabis dollars to lift their bans and moratoriums. So no, I would be extremely supportive of that initiative.
Okay, well, thank you. I wasn't aware of Senator Wilson's idea, but I guess great minds think alike.
Yes, they do, and she's
just
phenomenal.
Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. My question is similar, but actually based on the opposite impact. So I live in a community, 10th largest city in this state, 60% people of color, and for the last decade, my municipality has actually banned the licensing of marijuana in our community, or cannabis in our community. So I think we had 4 retail licenses issued in our community that have not been able to come to fruition. My concern around that social equity aspect is, how do we actually do the opposite when communities who have been disproportionately harmed by the impact of the war on drugs, who have the opportunity, the most benefit, quite frankly, to generate that generational wealth that we're talking about, but still find barriers at the local level from being able to realize that social equity? What would you recommend as potential solutions for us to be advocating to get access to social equity, not just at the state level, but at the municipal level? And perhaps it is strategic investments that incentivize local community, but I'm concerned that there's the similar barriers that we talked about earlier in perceptions around cannabis in communities of color, that those barriers continue to exist at the local level. And so I'm just curious if you have any suggestions for us.
They do. You know, as your former constituent in Federal Way, and I've talked about this in Linwood, I'll be transparent and say I do favor local control. I think that local city councils and mayors are best informed by listening to their constituents and making those decisions that are best for their community. And it's been difficult because Federal Way has tremendous disproportional impact. I think we've got to continue to work with local mayors and city councils, and we've got to provide education as to the why. We've got to explain to them that these dollars benefit your first responders. We have to explain to them that they benefit the schools. And I think that when we look at that 33% that's in general revenue, we are simply not incenting counties to lift their moratoriums. I think in the Black and brown community, we've got to be transparent about some of these dollars have to go to law enforcement. We have to meet prevention where it is. That's important. But I don't favor the state usurping local control. I think it's education on our part. I think it's working with people like Mayor Farrell and that city council to show them the why and to explain the why, and I think it's advocating. We're going to see across the state bans and moratoriums being lifted because the population is changing. Communities are changing. They're becoming more diverse. And so I encourage communities to continue speaking to their local municipalities about the why.
Thank you. Are there further questions of this panel? Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right, so I see that we have Shelley Anderson joining us in the Zoom room. And so let's also call up, so that you're ready and on deck, Peter Manning and Mike Asai to join us in the room. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Shelley Anderson, Deputy Director of Craft Cannabis Coalition, an association of over 70 cannabis retail stores statewide and allied producers. CCC is signed in as other, as there remains a few more pieces that our members share concerns with. First, we appreciate the work of Prime Sponsor Deborah Intiman to address one of the major concerns of the bill by including an amendment that retains the legislative control over the cannabis license allotments. CCC feels that that puts the bill in the right direction, and we hope to continue dialogue. The two pieces that the CCC remains concerned with are that the bill does not fully address market concentration and includes a provision that adds to the issue, and that we've been receiving concerning information related to the scoring rubric for the existing social equity program. CCC has these concerns because we strongly feel that 44 licenses has yet to distribute in their existing social equity program. They need a chance to be awarded to prospective applicants. Did it actually work to increase Black and brown retail ownership in the cannabis industry? We hope to continue working with the Prime Sponsor and the committee to address these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you for your testimony. Please proceed.
My name is Peter Manning, Madam Chair and the representatives. I'm with Black Excellence Cannabis, and we, our organization, we support 1790 for several reasons. And we also like to thank Representative Intiman for presenting this bill to the committee. It's been 10 years since we were excluded from a market that we partook in 10 years ago as medical providers for our communities. We had a thriving economy within our community when we dealt in medical marijuana. We supplied medicine for the people in our community. We employed people in our communities and the like. The state stepped in and they stripped that from us and did not include us in the process. We are here today, 10 years later, asking that that door be open to us. We were marginalized 10 years ago. We don't think it's fair. If we were to take a close look at what were the parameters that took place or what happened within those parameters, we'd see that there was biasness on the part of the LCB. Now, currently, under the leadership that the LCB is under now, the Black community is pleased with Ali Garrett, David Postman, and Donald Joff. We think the agency's headed in the right direction. We think that their social equity initiatives are going to cure part of the problem. We think it needs to have some more work done on it, but we most definitely support this bill. The state of Washington currently is moving in the right direction on social equity, and that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Mike Asai. I am the co-founder or founder of Emerald City Collective, first downtown Seattle dispensary, second Black owned in the state. Was unjustly shut down in 2016. We were licensed, we paid our taxes. Our incorporation said specifically that our nature of business was to provide medical cannabis for medical patients. We did not lie, we told the truth. And because we told the truth, Department of Revenue sent us a letter before we even got our brick and mortar stating that we needed to pay sales tax on medical marijuana, as we always will say, cannabis. I would like to read, I'm also the Vice President of Black Excellence in Cannabis, and I would like to read our mission statement. The war on drugs was the war on the Black and brown communities. Cannabis is now legal in many states across the United States of America. Our mission is to fight for Black and brown inclusion in the cannabis industry. Our communities have been traumatized during the war on drugs. We've been excluded and now must fight to be included in a legal industry which can create generational wealth for communities, for our communities. We will bring to light the hypocritical nature of those that have chosen to stand in the way of true equity in the cannabis industry for the Black and brown communities. We ask you to join us in this quest to bring justice and equality in the ever-growing cannabis industry. I would like to thank Representative Intiman for sponsoring this bill and also the other co-sponsors here as well. This is very important, not to just me and Peter, but to the Black community. Many in the Black community were afraid in 2010 to take the steps that we did, taking the risk to open up. We set the foundation for what you see now in the legal cannabis market, and we ask you that you pass this bill out of committee 1790. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. And thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony. I think the premise of this bill is trying to fix the technical aspects of a program that's not working for everybody. My question is, does this bill, in your mind, get at fixing the cultural aspects of an agency that is not working for everybody? And if so, can you describe for me how?
Answer it.
You want to answer it?
This bill does help, and the reason being, right now the social equity, the 44 licenses are licenses that are already in the pot. It's not creating anything new. What this does, it helps by adding, because the population has increased. It's been since 2015 that we had any new retail from Liquor Cannabis Board. So March 1st is not new licenses, it's licenses that have been there.
Can I interject something there? My confidence in that this will work is because of the leadership that the LCB currently has now. As I emphasized earlier, I have confidence in David Postman. I have confidence in Ali Garrett. I have confidence in Valendroff. I have confidence in Rebecca Smith. I have sat down and I've spoken with these individuals. I truly believe that they are sincere in what they're doing, and I think they want to make this work.
Further questions from the committee?
I was going to get that to Representative Reed. I take the long route sometimes, but I was going to get to, I was going to answer it.
We have some more testifiers and a whole bunch of bills to move, so thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Madam Chair, we now have two more testifiers joining us in the room, Ahmed King and Ali Garrett, please. Oh, and I apologize. It's on my list as in the room, but Mr. King is joining us remotely. So I see Ms. Garrett ready to go, and so we will go ahead and take you first.
Good morning, Co-Chair Colbert Wiley, and as well as the members of the committee. My name is Ali Garrett. I'm a member of the three-person board of the Liquor Cannabis Board. I'm here today to testify on behalf of Board Chair Postman, Board Member Valendroff, the agency, and myself in support of House Bill 1790. Allow me to briefly provide some remarks about my background and why this bill is important to me. I've served on the LCB board since August of 2016. A key reason that Governor Inslee appointed me to the board was to bring my business experience to the board as we develop policy and regulations impacting the industry that we regulate. I'm a longtime small business owner. I'm CEO of PMT Solutions in Bellevue. In addition to running my business, I'm very active in the business community. I'm serving my 8th term as president of Tabor 100, which is an association working to further economic power, educational excellence, and social equity. It is with this passion and drive that has driven my social equity leadership at the LCB. Washington regulated system of retailing adult cannabis is not racially diverse. When we reviewed and saw the license, we did a review of the licensing in retail in the industry, approximately only 4% identified as Black, 4% identified as multiracial, and 2% self-identified as Hispanic. In the beginning of 2020, we did an effort to learn more about the launch of the, and to hear from the community with the outreach facilitated by Dr. Caprice Collins to hear from the community firsthand what people who was left out of the system despite being disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs and what it did to them. I-502 did not include any provision for social equity or opportunities for those communities disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs to directly benefit from the legalization. This was an opportunity loss. There was fierce competition for the 334 retail stores, with more applicant stores than there were, with more applicant for stores than there was license available. What we did, the agency introduced and passed House Bill 2870 to address the lack of diversity with the system in 2020. The LCB, the bill which created the Social Equity Cannabis Program, authorized the LCB to issue retail license that was previously forfeited, canceled, revoked, or never issued that meet the need for the criteria social equity retail license. I served on the Social Equity Task Force. The LCB has held in reserve approximately 44 licenses that will be available soon. The LCB legislation also created the Social Equity Task Force. The task force did that and issued them to the LCB, and they have since adopted all of the rules that was presented to the LCB. I'm proud to say that the social equity program will be fully in place, and the applications for those licenses open March 1st. Despite making those 44 licenses available, we know that there's more work to be done, and that's what brings us to House Bill 1790, which is before you today. LCB is dedicated to creating more equity cannabis program, and this bill supports that effort. Community reinvestment. This bill will help address the harm that impacted minority communities disproportionately by adding additional license to social equity applicants. Economic empowerment. Adding additional stores will generate more revenue as retailers generate cannabis excess tax revenue for the state and local government. Mobility. This bill provides more flexibility to applicants than is available today under its term. An applicant can cite a location anywhere in the state. Density. And lastly, the concerns of local authority will continue to be in play. Local authorities continue to have the authority to regulate business location, including outlet density. In conclusion, we need more flexibility to help those harmed by the war on drugs establish their businesses and achieve the state goal of increasing opportunities for social equity license and applicants. House Bill 1790 will provide that flexibility and allow the LCB to make the adjustments over time.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and I'd appreciate it if the panel could hold their questions until our last testifier. Stay close.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and then finally we have Mr. King joining us. I see you're in the room, and okay, video and we hear you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the chair. I'm going to give a special thanks to Representative Intiman, also Colin Albert Sardinas, also Black Excellence in Cannabis, Peter Manning, Micah Sy, Damian Mims, Tyler, and Maurice Gordon. Let me give you a little bit about my background. I am the Executive Secretary of Black Excellence.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Did you mean to leave your camera off?
Yeah, I'm having an issue with my camera right now.
Got it.
So I tried to get it to maybe not. Yes. Okay. So sorry about that. I am the Executive Secretary of Black Excellence in Cannabis. My dad had a license at the beginning of the retail, and then that was taken back for unjust and unfair reasons, for the exact reasons what we're discussing today. This bill 1790 is a good bill. It's progressive. It will help. I can just agree on all of the points that I heard from the people that are pro. And I just would like to say that please pass this bill. The people have spoken. Government is supposed to be for the people and by the people. And it's time, state of Washington, to fulfill your obligation to Black and brown people. And as far as equity goes, I would like to again thank you for your time today. And again, please pass this bill. It is a great bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Does the committee have questions for the last two speakers? Thank you so much, both of you, for your testimony and for all of the other folks who testified. With that, I will close the public hearing on House Bill 1587.
It's actually 1790.
I'm sorry, look, 1790. My apologies.